Hello, everyone. Welcome to this edition of Change Chat. This was put together last week. We had a conversation, the four of us offline, and we started talking about what we wanted to, some of the changes going on in the e-ink market, in the space, some of the things happening. And I want to let everybody introduce themselves. Of course, I'm Ed Finn. Those of you on this channel know me, know a little bit about my background and the fact that I started with an idea to talk about organization and how to keep yourself organized, and all of a sudden a Supernote video started getting me going a little bit on views, and then I won't steal any of Kit's thunder, but Kit brought me on his live stream and people started taking notice. So fast forward, we're up to about 2,700 follow or subscribers and got a lot of things going on. But so what I'll do is I kind of rank this. I tried to figure out how do I have everybody introduce themselves in what order. So I'm going like been doing it longer to been doing it less or most newest. So if it's okay, Kit, we'll start with you and then we'll move on to Rod and Jay. And just tell everybody a little bit about yourselves and then we'll jump in and talk about the topics we've got on the agenda for today.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, so my name's Kit, and I guess I've been doing this for longer than you three, and it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on and congratulations, mate. You're absolutely right. 2,500 subscribers. It took me a lot longer to reach that sort of number. I can tell you that. But I started as I'm an educator, fellow educator. I think that's one of the things you and I really got talking about was e-ink for education, because it's fascinating for me, the future of these things in the education world. And I sort of flipped over from making YouTube videos about physics, which were designed for my students to help them out, and it was so exciting. Like you say, you talk about when one video launched, and suddenly you got this engagement, and suddenly you're talking to all these people. It was so exciting when children, young people, found my physics videos and found them useful and said thank you, and then sort of went on that journey with me. And over time, well, I ended up, during lockdown, I made a video about the Remarkable, just as the Remarkable 2 was about to be launched, and that took off as well. And all of a sudden there's a different group of people coming into the videos, and that was very exciting also. And what I find, YouTube is such about that community, better than any other video sharing platform, any other social media, that you build a relationship with people and you see them in the comments. And the nice thing about making this type of content as opposed to the education content was that the students, they studied physics and they were interested in physics until they'd done their exams. And then they're like, see you later, Kit, thanks for the help. I'll see you around. Good luck for the future, And that's like, okay, cool. But, it's hard to build that audience over time. And so when that Remarkable video took off, I was like, okay, there's something interesting. In fact, it wasn't even my first review. I remember the first review that I did, I thought, oh my word, this has taken such a long time. So it took 2 weeks of my brain space to put this review together. Can you believe that now? The amount of reviews that I put out now. But that first review that I made took me 2 weeks, and I said, I'm never doing this again. I'm done making reviews, because it was just so stressful. But in actual fact, all it was a different workflow. And I think one thing you talk about a lot, and one thing I love about our community around these e-ink devices, we don't just talk about the tech, we talk about them involved in our workflows. And once I'd solved that review workflow, it was like, okay, it became very natural, and then it grew. And then doing this was great. I love doing the live streams, and I'm just really pleased that you invited me, because I thought I was out of the E-team, but maybe, I don't know, this hasn't been branded as an E-team video, but but yeah, thanks, Ed, appreciate you. And it's great to share a screen. It's great to share a screen with you again, and Rod for the first time, and Jay for the first time as well. Because obviously, Jay, I've seen lots of your comments on my channel, and I'm really grateful for your input and your feedback and support in that way. And Rod, also, you've been an admirer of your videos, because you and I every time I watch one of your videos, Rod, I think to myself, I've got to up my production quality.
That's right.
I've got to be smoother.
Well, you know what? It's funny. I say the same thing when I watch your videos. So
Okay. We push
we're
each other.
feeding off each other in that sense.
Mutual
for sure.
admiration society.
Yeah, cheers, Jeff.
Well, thanks, Kit Rod. Tell everybody who may be new for the first time, a little bit about you.
Okay, so I'm Rod, Rants About Tech on YouTube, and pretty much Rants About Tech everywhere else that you may find your socials. Um, oh yeah, Rants About Tech Discord too. If you guys like conversation, it's a good time. But so I started uploading about a little over a year now, and it's been fun. I mean, I started just by doing like tech videos, my laptop, my camera. But then I did a e-ink video. It's kind of very reminiscent of Kit's story where he was doing something and then he did an e-ink video and it kind of took off. And I think this the same for maybe all of us, but I did an e-ink video on the Remarkable paper. No, the Remarkable paper wasn't out yet, so just the Remarkable 2. And it took off, and I thought, okay, well, I like talking about this stuff. I'm a big like pen and writing utensil kind of dude, so I thought, you know what, let me dive into this little this niche market of technology for a little while, and I ended up staying, and I like it. I like to give, and like you said, the community is the biggest thing around the thing that we do around e-ink here, and I really appreciate that aspect of getting into e-ink for sure. But beyond that, I appreciate Kit with his videos. I mean, when I first got started, that's all I did was just I sat and probably watched every video Kit made on the Remarkable and then the Supernote, and that content was just so helpful. And then I found Ed on his channel and dive in more into the Supernote. So appreciate you guys, and thanks for having me on, to share this space with you guys who've been doing it for so long. And I really appreciate all the input and everything that you've contributed to the community.
Awesome. Jay, you're up.
Hey, yeah. So I'm Jay. Are you guys able to hear me? Am I doing okay there?
You're all good.
Yeah. Okay. Good. This is my first time on this platform as well as just live streaming in general. So as I have observed in some of my past videos, I am not a professional at this at all. So I hope you guys can give me some forbearance in terms of that. I'm in my day job, I'm director of scientific computing at a cancer center, and I have an enormous amount of information to kind of need to put together and assemble into action plans, right? So because of that, I have to pull together information from all different kinds of applications, and I've found that e-ink is just really useful for helping me focus, helping me reduce distractions for myself and kind of zoom in on what it is that I'm doing, as opposed to kind of feeling like I have this dopamine machine kind of blasting information into my brain. So really helpful because of that. I think it's, I have a very small channel compared to you guys, but I did have a couple of videos take off when I was one of the first people who got a Note Max. I happened to luck out in terms of getting it from a Canadian reseller when for some reason there were none in the United States for like weeks and weeks, and nobody could answer why.
Jay is an internet
so I ended up
sleuth,
getting
I
that.
tell you.
I mean, I've had to do a lot of research in the past, so yeah, I mean, it's kind of it might be a trauma response. I don't know, but it's yeah. So I got that Note Max, and I got to show a lot of people, what it was capable of early on, and I got a lot of positive feedback on that. So I've been trying to see if I could follow up on it with different things since then. And as you can all tell right now, I am currently coming to you live from a Love's traffic stop, or rather truck stop in the middle of East Texas, somewhere just maybe a little bit northeast of Houston. So I mean, if I throw a paper airplane, I might be able to hit Aaron, our friend Aaron Reed. Yeah, so I'm really glad that you guys invited me to this. I've got a a bunch of things I'm really excited to talk about. And as I told Rod earlier, anytime you guys need me to clam up, please don't hesitate. It's fine. So.
Well, I
Never
wanna
that,
thank all
Jake.
of
Never
you.
that.
And I want to thank all of you for that. And I want to highlight one thing before we dive in, because, you know, Rod, when you started, you were looking to do general tech. Kit, you started working to do physics videos. I started with this focus on organization. And, you know, Jay, you're just trying to do what you do on a daily basis like I am. And I think that that's interesting because we have two, you know, legit reviewers who are doing like multiple devices on the call. And then you have people, you know, like me. I've kind of fought that. I've thought, should I dive into like multiple devices? Because I know the channel would get bigger if I did that, but I don't want to make that content. And maybe that's, you know, my own bias and the fact that it's more of a hobby. But I'm like you, Rod. When it was COVID, when I bought my Supernote, I watched so much Kit and Voya. I guarantee you their voices were in my head when I wasn't watching YouTube because I was all over the
Yep.
place. And, you know, I think that it's really fun that this community exists. And I think that's, and that it varies. You know, there's so many different ways. Well, I want to highlight we've got a ton of chat, so thank you all. I'm going to pop up. We had, Aaron said he forgot what you looked like, Rod. He hadn't seen you in days. And if you don't know Kit, Rod did a live stream at one point every day.
Yeah,
5 days
I was
a
watched a
week,
lot of them.
and
Yeah,
then-
yeah. I had them on while I was working. It was good. Yeah, it was good times. Yeah, I just dropped in. It was nice, and I think I've been considering whether to do more of that myself. And just to your point about, you know, the content you're making and what do you want to make, it's got to be what you want to make, you know, because you put so much time into it. And what I'd discovered is, when I was making all those physics videos, is that it got to the point where I just wanted to make more videos. I loved making videos, and I loved the whole process. But what I really found that I loved was I loved telling these stories. And you know, I wasn't focused enough to do what was sensible, which was to make like the same style of video for every portion of the course, of the physics course that I could do. You know, and what is sensible is to make a video that's the same format every single time, that you know works with the audience, that is just a different device, you know, same video. That's what YouTube kind of, that is the meta on YouTube. That's what kind of definitely works on YouTube. But if you do that, then you'll end up getting bored with yourself. And it's really interesting, like Voya is obviously, he's the one that was like that for me. When I was buying a Remarkable, it was Voya's voice in my head, and JB Clossinger and Goody Reader as well. They were the only sources for these things. And I watched so many of those things, everything, and Voya's format was so good. But you see him now, and he's adding in these little aspects of his personality that make it so funny and so enjoyable. And you see him, oh well, I'll just do this unboxing outside today because it's beautiful weather, and I'm going to go crazy if I have to sit in my basement and make this video, you know. And the more you can fit it into your life, and the more you can tell those stories without it taking over your life. And that's the thing. As you guys, you know, get more to the point where it starts to provide a larger chunk of your income, and you maybe decide that maybe I'm gonna, you know, I'm a part-time teacher now, rather than being like a full-time head of science, which I was, you know, very responsible. That point where you're deciding, okay, I want to do more of this, so I need the time to do, but you can't let it. You have to let it become a bit like a job. You do, but you can't let it become boring. You have to keep it fresh. And it's just about making the videos that make sense to you. And the more I love that, you know, the more I do making videos, the more I love making videos. But I have to keep them fresh, and I have to change that style and change that format. So yeah, like the term reviewer was difficult for me to sort of get my head around. It's not like I woke up one day and thought I want to be a reviewer now. It's just like, I want to provide a service, I want to provide some useful content, but I also want to tell stories. I want to say something with meaning. You know, that's probably the one thing that I really, and why I love your whole thing around your channel, Ed, is organizing for change. I want to say something that's got it's got meaning. And I honestly that is what keeps me up at night. It's like how can I say this thing in a way that it's useful and has meaning and is relatable to other people, that other people are actually going through the same things I'm going through. They're going through the same struggles in work, the same struggles in life, and I want to give them useful information. So that's the fact that it's organized around e-ink, and that's the thing that gets all the headlines and the views. Great, e-ink's wonderful, absolutely incredible. But what we're doing here, sharing these things on YouTube, is more than that. It can be so useful, and that's where that's where I want, and that's what I'll need to do to keep doing this for another 10 years.
And that's
awesome.
that's a good point to make. I mean, I feel like the same way in the sense that I've never wanted to do reviews, you know what I mean? I've always just wanted to talk about the tech and just kind of bring forth the things that I've found and thought were interesting. And that in itself, I think people appreciate. I mean, I got one comment on a video I made like that. Someone was like, hitting a topic and getting the information out about that one topic and then kind of being done with it was a really cool idea. And I thought, that's kind of what I want to do.
I think Rod
It's,
just froze.
it's
Oh, there he
arduous.
Okay.
Oh, he's back.
goes. You're
I'm
back.
sorry. Okay. Wow, where did I cut out?
You said it was
All right, so
arduous.
yeah, so it was pretty arduous. Like the process is arduous doing reviews. Like just thinking about a format, thinking about how you want to do it, wanting to get enough B-roll in for this is a lot different than saying, okay, I'm going to just stand in front of the camera and talk about this product that I love so much. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah,
a whole-
live stream's so nice, isn't it? It's because you get that interaction. You see, thank you so much. I'm looking at the comments. I know you're looking at the comments as well. It's so lovely to read. Whilst you do it, it's lovely.
Yeah.
It's almost like I used to think about drawing was like this. If I've got a pencil and paper, I've got a friend. Now it's like if I've got an audience, I've got a camera to talk to. I don't feel like I'm working on my own all of a sudden. Like I say, putting your live streams on was like I'm working with somebody now. There's somebody, he's talking about e-ink, I'm writing my next script, I'm editing my video about e-ink, and Roderick's just there, just yapping in my ear and telling me.
Okay,
all these
now you
cool
guys are
things
making me
that-
feel like I need to start doing the everyday show again.
I think it's interesting. I think you have to also play the game a little bit because your everyday show is like, how's it going to live on after that every day, and what rather than it be live stream on this date, what's that focus? And maybe you could go back and give it a different title afterwards and give it a thumbnail that sort of encapsulates. I know you at times you've used clips from that to take them and use them elsewhere, and sort of to do that, but that takes so much time and effort. If you're live
That's
streaming
the
every day,
struggle.
also so maybe you need to fit that into your life in a way that makes sense. So it's maybe not every day. It's maybe it's not 2 hours every day. It's like 20 minutes every day or something. And then
and that's the struggle, trying to get that balance, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
You can't burn out. When I saw you doing that, I was thinking, Rod's great, he's amazing, but he's going to burn out on this.
I thought the same thing, and I couldn't listen to it at work, so I'd always have to do it on lunch or like the next day. And man, the pace of that, I was just like.
Hey, listen, it was fun while I was doing it, though. It was super fun while I was doing it.
So
Maybe only 6 days a week, like says. just rest on the Sabbath.
We'll
Right,
jump
right.
in on a couple of. Somebody noted a couple of disparities in the panel,
It's true.
but
Yes, and
but
gender.
She
And
Ink
gender.
still- But She Ink still loves us anyway, so I think we're all right. And just if you all didn't see it,
Shout out
this
to
is
She
amazing.
Ink.
These, just to highlight a couple, I have never gotten a donation during a live stream, and now I've gotten 3. So
That's
they
what's
must
up.
like this mix.
There's a
The
lot
four
of
us.
power in there's a lot of power in like putting together all of the people that are in this community, right? I mean, like I think we did a lot of promotion of this on Roderick's Discord before we started, and I think that made a big difference, honestly. I did some promotion on my social media, on Facebook, on LinkedIn, etc., and hopefully that got us some viewers as well. To
Absolutely.
just, watch us be nerds.
The power of
Yeah.
the community. There you go.
All right, so we
Yeah.
spent a little bit more time talking about all of that, but I think it was well worth it. I mean, getting
Absolutely.
people who really enjoy being together and talking to one another, that's always a good thing. But I think we want to dive into some of these topics. And
Oh, yeah.
the first one, and I know we all have opinions on this, so is this whole move, it seems like, to USI. And I don't want to call it a real move yet because, to be fair, it's only a few devices out of the whole landscape. But it's definitely happening. And in some of the bigger players, I mean, in some of the Boox devices, in the Remarkable Paper Pro. So this move to a USI semi-proprietary, because USI can be seen as a universal, stylus. And so
Debatable.
yeah. So Rod, I want to throw it to you first. And what are your thoughts on this? Because it's creating, I think, a little bit of controversy, rightly so, because
It is.
it's
We
different.
don't know a lot, and different, right? Like we don't know a lot, which anytime you don't know about something, it's going to cause a little bit of a panic, So, but I mean, I don't have a lot to judge USI off of other than the Remarkable Paper Pro, and now the new Go 7. It's really hasn't been used in any other major e-ink devices yet. I mean, the Tab XC, some people have that in hand already, and that's using USI. I can't speak to that. But I can speak to those two devices, the Color 7 or the Go 7 and the Remarkable Paper Pro, and it's for a standard that has universal in its name and that like touts itself on interoperability and compatibility, you can't find like that much interoperability and compatibility amongst the USI standards that I've been able to like test. So like fundamentally, I think it's one of those things where if they're going after that universal market, which I don't think what's happening. I definitely don't think this is a interoperability or compatibility play on anyone's
No.
terms here. I think this is purely a financial play, as whereas it's a cheaper, non-proprietary technology that they can use, and the hardware that's used to implement it is also cheaper because it uses off-the-shelf components, and most times these devices are already shipping with the technology needed to use USI. So it's I don't know it's a money-saving thing for sure, but if there are any other advantages, I haven't seen them to be honest.
So I want to just jump in 1 second because I think we do USI as an organization a little bit of a disservice, because when we say USI, what that means is Universal Stylus Initiative, and I asked them because when I first tried out the Remarkable, I tried out some USI 2.0 pens I had on hand, and they worked, but they didn't work as well as the Remarkable pen itself did on that screen. Now if I've just pulled up USI's website, and here is a list of the certified USI products. And nowhere on that is Remarkable, because they said to me then, no, actually, it's not a USI stylus. It isn't USI. It's not a USI branded stylus. It is that they didn't know anything about this. It's not one of their products that officially uses their pens. They work on them, but they work on them because what the USI uses to make it something that can be, as you said correctly, it uses the technology which is on any touch screen or any capacitive touch screen. It uses that, and it uses the pressure sensitivity that's available on that touch screen to give you a stylus input, and it is reasonably accurate. It's more accurate than just a pointer using your finger, but it's using the grid that's already there, so you don't have to add anything. Hence, it can be somewhat universal. Now, when they wanted me to have a look at their 2.0, they shipped me two products, and they shipped me the Google Pixel tablet, and they shipped me the HD, the Amazon Fire HD 10, I think. And
Yep.
same styluses worked not quite as well on the HD10, better on the Google Pixel, but again on neither of these as well as Wacom EMR does. So we say USI, really what we mean is a pen that works with the existing capacitive screen. Now Boox, as far as I'm aware, aren't signing into the USI because Universal Stylus Initiative is not for profit, and they wanted those things shipped back because they can't afford to be doing, they weren't paying for a review. They just wanted to get the word out about USI 2.0, and there is some good good things about it, and it is a stylus that can be more cost effective. And I think if you look at the cost of the Tab X, which is still, some units of those floating around, and is still more expensive than the Tab XC is,
Yep.
that can tell you how much adding that Wacom layer is there. And I think with this, for instance, right, so my storyline for the Boox Go 7, okay, they saw that Big Me brought out the D751, I think it's called, with a stylus, but it's not the same type of stylus. It's an active capacitive stylus that needs to be charged, which is, I think, what we should be saying about these, rather than blanket calling them USIs. And it wasn't as good. However, most people who picked it up said, well, at least it can do a little bit of handwriting, but I know it's not going to be as good as a Wacom. If this was to add a Wacom layer, I think one or two things would have to happen. Either this would cost £100 more, probably, somewhere in that region, or it's just actually not possible to do because the screens come, I think, from e-ink with different options layered on. Boox rings up e-ink and has the discussion and says, guys, we want some 7-inch screens. What options have we got? And they say, you can have this parcel that's due to leave the factory in 2 months' time. What layering do you want? Do you want front lights? What type of front lights do you want? These type of things. And Boox can say, okay, can you put Wacom on it? Yeah, we could do that, but it'll cost you this much more. Or, oh no, sorry, just not possible at that screen size right now. We haven't got the things to do. We haven't got the machines to do that. We haven't got that production run yet. But we'll look at it in the future, and is there a demand for that in the future? So I think that's it's really interesting. It's a capacitive stylus, and if you think about look at the Remarkable one, it's I just wish that Remarkable Paper Pro had the Wacom. I do, but with that one, maybe that one would be over £1,000. The Note Max has the Wacom layer, but the Tab XC doesn't. But maybe there was a choice. Okay, if we put this on here, do we all of a sudden have a Tab XC which is over £1,000, and all of a sudden people are like, that's not an option for me. Are these the choices they're making? And I have one more thing just to say about before I sort of pass it back, so I know I've blathered on now. But so there is a device, the Quaderno A4 Gen 3 Color. Now the Quaderno uses a Wacom layer. Right. Mm-hmm. Now I think the Gen 3 Color does. I've not tried it, but I think it does use a Wacom layer. But if you look at the specs of the Quaderno Gen 3 Color, it is
Exactly
200 ppi-ish black and white, 100 ppi color. So it's low resolution, not as good as this new Tab XC with its high resolution, but it has a Wacom layer. Was it the case that for Boox it was a choice of having Kaleido Free with 300 ppi and 150 dots per inch color, but Wacom's not available at this point, or go the lower resolution and have the poorer stylus tech? I think they might have got, if that was their choice, I think maybe they got it right.
Yeah.
I think, real quick, I think just in response to that, I think that the choice for me, for Onyx, is more of, can we get away with using a less precise technology in tablets that don't need that precision, versus putting it in tablets that need that precision? Because my hot take right here, my guess is that we will start to see And you're right in calling it active stylus instead of USI. My bad. You're absolutely right, because not all of these active styli are USI. So very good point there, Kit. But in the case of Onyx with their devices, I think that we see active stylus in devices that aren't note takers. So I think we still see Wacom in all of the note taking devices, in the notes. Any other device that they're making for note taking, if they come out with another model name for those. But I think we start to see the active stylus take over on all of their tablet devices, like the tab devices.
Tab X, right, yeah.
All their e-readers that they're going to add writing to, those are going to use the active stylus. But they're going to keep Wacom for the top tier writing devices.
Yeah, I think I think you're probably right.
Yeah,
Boy,
James,
do
hop
I
in.
hope you're wrong. Yeah, I mean, so okay. For reference, I got really excited when I heard the Go 7 was coming out, because I have been frustrated. Like, so the Tab Mini C is basically exactly what I need for a particular kind of work where I need something small that's next to me that I can use to jot down notes, and you know, expand on them later. The problem with the Tab Mini C is that the Snapdragon 665 SoC in it is just a dog. I mean, I don't think it was fast when it came out,
Right.
and that was 2023, and we have been waiting forever for anybody really to like refresh the sort of 7 to 8 inch line of machines. And then the Go 7 comes out, and I have literally been in the Boox Discord detailing exactly like my wish list to poor Sylvia, who must be really tired of dealing with me at this point, who is one of their wonderful like customer service representatives, but basically being like, yeah, like if we could just have Carta 1300, you know, with a front light so it can be used as a reader in bed and whatever, and you know, and has note-taking capability, boy, that would be fantastic. And then they came out with exactly that, except its ability to do.
So
So
we can't
Kit,
have
you
it
pointed
all.
out. Yes, you pointed exactly this out in your video on the Go 7. Its ability to track small tight curves is just awful, right? So like it messes up E's, it messes up A's, it, you know, it has difficulty even like with the sort of tight curves of like W's or M's, and like that is just, it's very
Your finger is better in a
frustrating.
lot of cases.
For real,
Well, and-
right?
Yeah.
It's like it's very frustrating to work with. And then but we don't see that. This is the thing that I have a sort of a glimmer of hope for. So we don't see that with the XC. Maybe the XC's digitizer is, you know, not quite as accurate.
Have you
as
got one?
EMR.
You've got an XC at the minute, Jay. So I still
No,
haven't got one, but you've seen
but
other,
I've been-
and you've seen. Yeah.
Yes, I've been going off of other folks who have even compared them and said this is definitely better. And some interesting stuff so I was talking to Voya about this, and Voya's been doing some comparisons already. And some interesting stuff that you see is that, so the Inkspire stylus kind of works on the Go 7, but it's really janky. Like it messes up, like it doesn't report strokes correctly. The InkSense stylus works just as badly on the XC as it does on the Go 7.
Yeah. Whereas USI, they're all the same, so there should be one
Yes.
USI 2.0 should work with a USI
Right.
certified device. So
Right,
I
so-
wonder if their digitizers are different.
So I
resolution.
think it's a matter of the settings, like on the digitizer driver. So Voya said he looked into this, and basically the reason why the Remarkable Paper Pro is able to do handwriting the way it can is because they turn up the reporting rate on the stylus, and the screen is waiting for that from the stylus.
Yeah.
So if we can get Boox to do that, like, and just be like, hey, listen, just give us the ability to use the Inkspire stylus with the Go 7. I don't care if it's like, you know, $80, whatever it is. Like that's how bad I need this use case to work, right? And if you can let us do, so that's the reason I posted an hour like chat for the Video Ninja, a thread on Reddit, basically asking people if anybody has a Tab XC that has that they've rooted so that they can get access to look at like kernel modules and so on and so forth. Can you post the list of kernel modules and compare it to the one in the Go 7 that I posted in that post? so that we can say, okay, yes, the technology is identical here. We can see the same drivers are in use. Now we just have to change the settings. Please, Onyx.
I don't.
Anyway,
I would. That would be nice. I don't think the hardware is. I would be surprised if the hardware was the same, though. Honestly, I honestly think the hardware that Remarkable's using in theirs is maybe even different. Just because of the size of the screen being a bit different than what they typically offer in that range. I don't know. That would be nice, though. I would hope that it is that way.
Well,
Yeah,
the
I
Remarkable
would jump
stylus
in.
and the XC. Sorry, Ed, I just want to respond to that real quick. The Remarkable stylus and the XC stylus work on each other's devices.
Right.
So
you
maybe,
said the
maybe not.
Remarkable and the XC.
Yes, the Remarkable Paper Pro.
Yeah. and
Okay,
I
because
would-
the.
I
go
would just
go
jump
ahead.
in
I'll-
here really
after.
quick, and I want to get back to Kit's point about, because I fell into the trap too of saying USI, and I think that what we have to realize here is these are all capacitive styli,
Right.
and I even had to look this up, and my engineering son didn't know either, so we had a good conversation about it. So an active stylus is jumping back in time, really, when we were trying to mimic the human body. So it's made up of a combination of metal and rubber to mimic a finger. So the idea, and that's why it uses the digitizer or uses that capacitive layer. Sorry, not digitizer, but uses that capacitive layer, and why it's not as accurate. And so the idea being that all of that is the same. They're all using that foundational piece of technology to do what they do, which is why I wonder, and Brad Colbo showed this on his videos several times,
Yeah, great.
the smoothing
Yeah.
and
yeah.
stuff that's done on the software end
That's right.
to make that work
Yeah.
when you're drawing. And I'm wondering if Boox and Remarkable and some of these, since you've now got a pen doing the heavy lifting because there's no Wacom to pair it with, if they're somehow making those two softwares talk better. I mean, that's just my take on it, but that seems to be the case, because you can get an active stylus to work on some of these devices, but not to near the level that these proprietary styluses are working. I mean, I don't know what you all think about that, but that I had to go
Well,
back
I mean,
and
we
think, why does it do what it does and how?
We say active, but I mean, we saying active to kind of encapsulate all of this. But I mean, we gotta know that some of these companies are. USI is open source. They don't have to say they're using it to use it. So
Yes.
we'd be naive to sit here and say that they're not using USI. They could be, for all we know. We just don't know because they're not branding it as that. But
Yeah.
for just to encapsulate the whole thing and just say because we don't know, calling it active is probably the way to go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we don't want to throw shade on USI. And quite frankly, that
Exactly.
video, I think that was in the Discord, had the head of USI talking about Wacom trying to develop a pen that will do both. So the
Wow.
idea of all of the software features within a stylus that USI brings to the table, because it's the universal stylus standard, all those communication pieces, but still having the pressure, or not the pressure sensitivity, the accuracy of Wacom. And I think that's why Wacom's involved in the consortium. I think if they know
Yeah,
this is
isn't
coming,
it?
they want to be able to anticipate.
Well, plus it's open source. They can just incorporate it, just like you're just saying,
Yeah.
right? I mean,
So I
they,
just
they can make sure that the standard gets to where it should be because they ultimately want to use it themselves.
Yeah. So I have this device, Huion, Huion Android tablet that's come to me, and it has a active capacitive stylus, and it's they call it the Huion pencil. But Huion are amazing. This is a Huion just here, and it's that's a proper EMR, 16,000 levels of pressure job, great drawing tablet, wonderful thing. If that technology, that's a cut above the standard Wacom we get and everything else. But with their capacitive pen on their Android tablet, it's nowhere near as good, of course. But it works very differently depending on which software you use. And in my little video comparison or review of that, I've tried out several different softwares, and it works better in handwriting looks better in one, drawing works better in another. One is a lot slower than, you know, like the pen, the stroke lags behind the stylus more in one of them. And so it is about what the software is doing with it. And it is the case that when you apply smoothing, then you get more lag. And you get less accuracy as well. You can see in one of the softwares, you can actually see that there's a little dot following the pen, which is like every time the pen is being polled, and then it makes the line as a sort of average of that. And so you don't get a zigzag, but you can see that the dot where it's actually registering is zigzagging through the digitizer as it goes. And so that's, you know, that's what's going on. That's what it's having to make a choice, and that's why you can't make the little circles, because it's guessing the position based on these polls, and it's doing that fewer times. But I mean, Wacom also has that. If you want to sacrifice accuracy for speed, and this is what they did early days in Remarkable 2. I don't know whether you guys all remember this, but there was a lot of comparisons of Remarkable 1 and Remarkable 2 at first, saying, wow, Remarkable 2 is like 20 milliseconds, whereas Remarkable 1 is like 40 milliseconds latency. But why is that happening? And Void did a great breakdown, and he took all of the data of exactly where the pen was sampling, and he found the pen was sampling less often on the faster one. So you're actually getting less accuracy because it was actually sampling at like a lower frequency, but it was able to construct the line that you saw on the e-ink quicker because of that. So it's definitely a tuning game, really, and I can't wait to compare this Ink Sense with the whatever the ink buzz vibration thing that they've got going on the XC.
Inspire.
Inspire,
I think the thing is too with that, and I noticed this, and I was going to bring this up, but I thought, okay, this is probably silly, but I'll bring it up now. The fact that a lot of it felt like to me the Go 7 had a snaking issue like the Remarkable Paper Pro did when we first got them, right? You would draw a line in red, and it would first draw that line in black, and then it would come behind that and redraw that line in the color that you had chosen. That was a technique they employed just to speed things up a bit, and maybe to even help with the flashing. But I noticed that same thing on the Go Color, the Go 7. When you draw something, it would take a second. Now this isn't with the pen that comes with the Go 7. This is a third-party pen. But I noticed that it took a second to register something, and then it would almost recreate the path that I was drawing, rather than it being the actual path that I drew, if that makes any sense.
It does, yeah. Yeah. The other thing that talking about its toll on like the hardware, the XC has got a much faster processor than the Go 7. But even if you look at the
way faster.
Yeah, if you look at the Note Air 4C, and this kind of like when you put the tilt pencil on its biggest thickness and brush across the screen, and the lag is stupendous on the Note Air 4C, which has a decent processor in it, but that doesn't happen at all on the Go 7. So is it just less of a toll on the processor to actually figure out where a active capacitive stylus is on the screen, and therefore you're not getting that lag? Do you follow me there? So
I think that Note Air 4C issue is more of a optimization thing.
But it's not just Note Air 4C, because it is on anything with a Wacom. Okay. I can recreate that every time.
Gotcha.
In the Boox notepad, so anything with Wacom. I don't know about I don't think it's as bad on the Tab Ultra C Pro, but I think it's still there, that it is just the case that for some reason, big thick brush strokes, it struggles. And it's not just building out the pixels, it's with the tilt at the same time. So perhaps they're thinking, and I think Boox are trying it, and they're seeing what the response is, because they, as I said, they've heard a lot. If somebody said to you, here's a reader, would you like that, sir, for very little extra cost, but just to buy the stylus? Would you like a little bit of note taking? It's not going to be the best, but do you want to add that just for very little extra?
Yep.
Most of us would probably say, yeah, for the occasional like shopping list or quick rough outline or something. But it isn't going to do what the Remarkable did for the world of e-ink, which was change the use case. And the Supernote now to be like such a great place to write. And I don't know, tell me about, I'm really interested in your opinion on the Remarkable Paper Pro writing, because sometimes I write on that thing and I think, wow, I love writing on this. And other times, and then I look, and whilst I'm writing, the feel of it on the, as it scratches across is really quite sublime. And I remember just wanting to write on it at first, but then I looked at my handwriting on it, and to look at those little tiny little, the E's and the A's and the W's, the little curves, I thought, that doesn't look like my handwriting does. That isn't getting the fine, it isn't getting the perfection that I get from a normal pen or on the Supernote or on any Wacom EMR, to be honest. But the Supernote still retains that like superlative. It looks like my writing. It feels like writing with a proper pen on cartridge. It just does it for writing. I mean, tell me, like, do you guys find the same on Remarkable? Are you just not like loving it on the Remarkable Pro?
Well, I mean, it's funny you say that, because that's one of the reasons I don't use the Remarkable platform as a whole as much as I would like to. It's because of how that looks. Yeah. Right? There's something uncanny about it. You can't really put your finger on it, but there's something uncanny about it. And you don't get that, you're right, on the Supernote platform. All the imperfections remain. You know what I mean? And and those imperfections sometimes, right, they're real with exactly. Yeah. So I guess that's more in line with maybe the smoothing that Remarkable does, especially with the calligraphy pen. Oh my goodness. You can't make something look bad with that calligraphy pen, no matter what you're writing. I mean, honestly, they make everything look super good with that. So, but you're right. I 100% agree.
Yeah, I can manage it.
Try it, Jay. Listen, I don't care, man. I mean, it'll make it look good, bro.
To all your points, what I would say on that, and I don't have a Remarkable, so I don't have a use case here for that, but I can say that if I'm looking at my handwriting, I want it to look like my handwriting. I don't want any of the imperfections to be something the device is creating. Yeah. And that's the thing that is the issue.
I tried comparing, print to cursive here, and it's just, I was like, well, if I use cursive where it's designed to be sort of bigger loops anyway, does that make it better? Not really.
No.
And I'm so slow writing a cursive anyway, so I don't know.
Yeah. It's one of those things, man. But I agree. But I agree with Kit on that one. It does. There's something uncanny about the way they make it look after you've drawn it or written it. But that's why I don't choose the calligraphy pen anymore, because it's just it's too fake.
I do want to bring up something just real quick, because we were talking about like the Go 7 and the tab devices and some of these moves, and I kind of put this under something else, but I'm curious about your thoughts on it. I think, and I could be wrong here, but the two best devices for note-taking on the Boox lineup, from what I've seen and what I've read and watched, are the Go 10.3 and the Note Max. And those are both in different lines. And I think the naming convention confuses the heck out of people. And the Go 7 you would think would be comparable to the Go 10.3. That if I'm a consumer, no, you know what I'm saying though. I would think,
totally,
Go device.
And that was my problem initially. And like Jay was talking about earlier, his excitement for that when they was like the Go 7, it implied a level of superiority that we became accustomed to with the Go 10.3. Right, it implied that level of this is good, but that's not what we got. We got an e-reader with note taking as an afterthought, kind of thing.
Now, it's interesting because there are a number of ways that, like, even if you just obviously size changes how you use devices in a bunch of different ways, right? But like, there are a bunch of different ways in which the Go 7 is actually kind of like superior to the Go 10.3. Like, I mean, this thing is a remarkably good reader, like a really good reader. The screen on it is fantastic. For anything that you care to name, really, like So let me take this out of dark mode here. But like, so yeah, here we go. So like, this is just incredibly crisp text. It's really good quality. And on top of that, the thing that is sort of miraculous about it, and when they were doing their release of it and sort of promoting it, Kenneth, who's one of the representatives from Onyx on Reddit, was saying like, oh yeah, we have like a new software mitigation for ghosting that is new. It's not BSR, but we think it might be pretty good. And it's kind of insane how much they undersold it.
Yeah.
Because
What,
like,
you talking about the whatever they're doing with software for ghosting?
yes. So like, if I put this live stream on, it is nuts how good this thing is at doing video. Like, there is almost no lag here. It is really impressive.
I'll give it. It's snappy. I'll give the Go 7
Yeah.
is snappy. I mean, I won't undersell that. I even have that in my notes that I'm taking, my little running tab have here on the Go 7. It's snappy as all crap. It is. I'll
Yeah.
give it that. And I can't even describe and explain why it's so snappy. Like when to be honest with you, it feels snappier than the Go 10.3 right now.
Yeah. Well, it is. I mean, the SoC in this is a Snapdragon 690. The one in the 10.3 is a Snapdragon 680, and the 690. Like, if you look at the performance metrics, like there's a bunch of ways in which it's actually significantly better than you might think just from like 10.
Then the numbers.
So
Yep. Yep.
it really is like it's almost
feels
a
it.
7. Yes, it's almost a 750G, which is the one that's in the Palma 2,
And on a smaller
the
screen too.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Exactly.
Same amount of
It's
RAM, I
got less
think,
to
as
do.
well. Yeah.
Yes.
Mhm. Yeah. Yep.
So, it is definitely snappier than the Go 10.3, but like,
And
there
why.
are a lot. Sorry, Kevin.
No, go. So go ahead.
I was going to say, like, there are a lot of other compromises I would have made to get EMR on a device this size.
Yes.
Like I wish they were able to. I mean, on the one hand, I wish they were able to ask these questions before they built these devices, but on the other hand, like, I can point you to exactly the data sheet for the screen that's in this machine. Like, this is an off-the-shelf screen. This isn't a custom job. This isn't like this is exactly what was offered from E-Ink to their customers, who, remember, are not us. They're the OEMs. So
Yep. And,
Yeah,
and
no-
another. No, go ahead, Kit.
I was just going to say, if it was purely a cost play, then I think that we'd be looking at the sort of rival EMRs that are out there. And we talked, I think, about, is it Penstar, who are like Hanvon really, and Hanvon make their own EMR tech, as far as I'm aware, which is the sort of 8,000 levels of pressure job. And XP Pen themselves, the XP Pen Magic Note, 16,000 levels of pressure. Actually, I think in a sort of Android device, it's obviously not E-Ink. One of the best pens that I've used, really, and it feels great. It's accurate. It's those 16,000 levels of pressure don't sound like it should make a difference, but it does. It is a really nice tech to use.
Real quick.
If it was just money, sorry, one sec. If it was just money, then I think that those would be options that these companies could choose, and there would be a bit more of a market, and then the prices would come down. Whereas I think it is about, as Jay says, what is the available thing that we're making. Sorry, Rod, you crack on now, buddy.
Yeah. What did you think about the increased levels of pressure on the Havon tablets with their custom EMR?
I think it might have been better if the screen pixel density could keep up. So I think that that pen was fine. The feel of it, the pressure sensitivity was fine. It may well have been better than the standard Wacom EMR, which is obviously not the best Wacom can do that they save for their Pro tablets. But I just felt like every single time I was using it that I didn't really know whether I was getting better handwriting out of this, because
that was my point.
227 pixels per inch is just not what I'm used to now. So it was kind of like going back to a Remarkable 2, and seeing the dots at the side of your strokes and everything like that. And I felt like maybe it'd be really good. They're certainly a company to watch, aren't they, as they bring out other devices and things in the future. But and interesting, but they need to play the price game, really. Those guys, they need to be cheaper than the alternatives, because I don't see why you would want to use their platform, which is just not as mature as the Supernote platform or the Boox platform, or even, dare I say, the Big Me platform as well.
We could even throw the AI paper into that mix too.
Yeah.
With their pricing.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Ed's been harping on that for months.
I mean, look, Ed's got a real point with the pricing. It's kind of goofy how they're like, oh, this is an $800 device. Yeah, okay.
Right.
On the one hand, on the other hand, the thing that's blown me away about Viwoods is like the pace of their software development is insane.
Yes.
It is really impressive. They just keep like blowing past feature parity for like every single item on their list. It's just like they just finished doing OneNote optimization. Actually, Kit, I don't know if you've had a chance to try that out yet.
I tried it. It didn't work as well as it was definitely there. It was definitely capable, but it wasn't as good as the Boox was. Okay. It wasn't. There was times where it just skipped. It wasn't quite as seamless as I'd hoped.
Yeah. Well, I would say this too about
real quick. Oh.
Go ahead, Ed.
Go ahead.
I was going to say one thing about, are they really on software? Because they're just now catching up. I mean, if you throw out a bunch of things that every other device already had.
That's what I'm saying. They just started last year.
They just started last year, but I mean, some of these things were like everybody else launched with some version of it. So whether it was calendar integration with the Supernote, whether it was cloud sync services with, not just Supernote, but Supernote and Remarkable, whether, I mean, to me, because you can really make yourself look innovative as a company if you roll out with things that people really want and aren't on device, and then you start blowing patches out there really fast. I mean, Rod, you and I both played the retail game, so there are things and there are ways to market that. And I have a problem with their pricing structure. I'm not saying their device isn't worth what you pay for it. Never have said that. I don't think it's worth more than the Supernote platform. That's me, because that's my device. But I don't think it's worth more than the Go 10.3. But what I do believe is it's not worth $800 for a 10.3 inch device.
Let me put this out there about the Viwoods that I didn't know until I did. I just got done doing my measurements for brightness, like with my my brightness instruments that I bought, measuring CIE standards for brightness. And this is like universal standards for brightness. And the Viwoods scored the highest out of the 10 devices that I have, with a score of 72.4 for CIE brightness. I mean, that plus coupled with the fact they got the Mobius display, they might have the best screen in e-ink. I can't hold you. The brightest screen that I've ever tested, with a writing roughness of about the same as what you get on any Boox device right now that's got a writing film on it. Mobius, with software like updates that we did, I mean, they're kicking butt right now. I mean, I'm not a Viwood stan at all, but I gotta say, they're kicking butt right now. They're kicking butt.
Yeah, Kit, you've looked at this a couple times with like the differences, like, because it's very weird that it is exactly the same panel as on the Manta.
Yeah, absolutely.
And yet the Manta is noticeably darker, and it's like there's no good reason for this. Like we've
so Supernote were the only ones who came back to me on this, and it's the number of times. The only one who came back to me about that was the Supernote. It's the number of times it refreshes down to white versus up to black. Was the thing that they said.
You said it, Jay. Jay was in the Discord with that.
So it was not just me. It was also Mashup Mike, to be fair.
But Mashup Mike. Y'all was leading the charge, though.
Yeah. So and that's what they do, and they said that that's a decision made, and I think that therefore that it would be possible to have a mode whether it would be worth their R&D time putting into that to add that in versus some other features that we all kind of want and them to develop, I don't know. But it would be possible for them to have a kind of mode which could change that. But it was about battery life and responsiveness of the screen, like quickness of refresh, speed of refresh. So they I say the other companies haven't written back on that one, but they did, and I guess that they're playing that game, and I guess that's why I think V-Woods is just that little bit behind in terms of their they're heading brighter, absolutely, but a little bit behind in terms of their pen latency compared to the other big guys. So
that's interesting.
Yeah, I think maybe that's it. But yeah, I found that whole thing fascinating. It's just like, and everyone's like, "What? You're quibbling over the tiniest little things." I said, "I know, but it's just interesting, isn't it?" It's
yes,
like,
very.
It's just an interesting question. Like, why is this panel doing something different to it when it's the same panel? And this is and I kind of think that you can imagine there's some very talented software engineers and just hardware engineers at all these places that are really pushing things forward. I find the whole tech just so fascinating. I really do. Yeah.
I equate it to like to console video gamers, right? I mean, and stay with me here. It's like you get a console, all right, let's say you bought the new console, you got new PlayStation. These developers have 4 or 5 years to work on this gear, right? It's not until about year 3 till they really start to understand the hardware and really start to understand how everything's working together and how to actually code and optimize for efficiency for a particular platform, right? And about year number 3 is where developers start to hit their stride with a particular system. And that's kind of how I equate it to this. Like any new tech is going to take the developers a little bit of time to come to grips with it, and then to start to optimize it to make it the best it can be. And I think that's what's happening with the Carter 1300, because I'm telling you, when it first came out, holy. But they're working with it. So I think that's where we're going to be, I think.
Yeah,
I'm still
I would
waiting
agree.
for
Go ahead, Jay.
Go ahead.
No,
I
go
was
ahead.
going to say I'm still waiting for some kind of ghosting mitigation update for the Note Max, because as much as it doesn't. It's funny because like I don't really mind it so much. I have the lower right gesture set to refresh, and I just use that whenever I need to. But now that I have been using the Co 7, which is also Carter 1300, and basically doesn't have ghosting, like very minimal here and there, but otherwise just nothing. They've clearly figured something out with Carter 1300.
They've gotten better, yeah.
And so like, okay, when are we getting that firmware push for my big friend over here, right? That just hasn't happened yet. I do see your terminal in the background flashing at us, by the way, Kate.
Yeah, I saw that.
It's
pretty
cool, isn't it? I thought about making an update video for this, right? Because the video for that's done quite well. But literally, I set it up, and that's what it's meant to be. So I haven't got much else to say yet, and I want to make another video. I thought I'm going to make a really short video, because I might make it right now, okay? So basically, I set that thing up, okay? And it's basically done exactly what I wanted it to do, which was just to give me a little live stream. Look, it gives it right now. It's a picture of the F1 track coming up this weekend, next weekend, and no, it's today. Sorry, and then it's gonna in 10 minutes it's gonna change to like something else, either a poem or the top BBC News headline at that time, or something. But nothing much. And the only thing I've done with it since setting it up has been take it off the wall once and charge it for 2 hours and put it back on the wall, and it's been on the wall for like 6 months or something now, and that's what it's advertised as. That's all it's doing is just pulling down 6 images a day and scrolling through those, and so that I get a little update. Oh, the weather's going to be nice today, and tomorrow actually, okay, I might need a jacket, and then I carry on with my work, and it's just that little bit of a drip feed of news, and it can do whatever you want to it. You can update once an hour, and then you won't have to charge it in a year, And I thought about doing a video about coding a panel for it, which I really want to do, but it's just getting around to it. But it just does. And it's a really clever little use of e-ink, and that's what.
It absolutely is.
Yeah, well, it's one of the things about e-ink, is it's just. I'll zoom in.
Ed, you really like yours, right?
Well, and
You got one,
and,
Ed? Oh, that's a zoom deal, guys.
Yeah, I love it, and for the same reasons Kit just mentioned. And I did make an update video, and that was hard. It was hard because it just does what it's
Yeah, what else
advertised
to
to
say?
do.
Yeah, it does. It does.
And so it was a real short video about here's how I finally decided to configure it. And the terminal team, by the way, is great. I
Yeah,
mean,
they're
they
good
are
guys,
very
yeah.
responsive. They
say.
have a good Discord. They really, and yeah, it just does what it needs to do. I forget it's there until
Yeah.
I look at it, and then the information I want to have switching over is there. So kind of
Yeah.
cool to see my graph for my website or my graph for my YouTube pop up, and it's not intrusive. It's one of the best implementations of a e-ink device as far as just to have there, something you don't have to touch, something you don't have to go back.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, I love it for that reason. And I keep fighting the impulse to buy another one because you can link them
Yeah.
and have one at the office and have one here, and they can
Oh, that's
actually
cool.
share the same thing and then
Yeah, or
flip
you
for
can
like
have
home
different
mode
things.
or
Yeah,
office
exactly,
mode
yeah.
or different things. There's a lot of different stuff there. So I
I have mine by the whiteboard. It's cool
Oh.
though. It just sits there and just has like the intermittent time on it. It doesn't tell updated time, as you guys probably know, but
Yeah,
just to know what hour it is good enough for me.
That's a nice place to be. If that's your life right now, oh yeah, it's somewhere in that hour. That's fine.
Yeah.
Okay, carry on. Okay.
So I am going to move us along a little bit because we've already hit an
Yeah.
hour, and we've got really
Sorry,
good
my bad.
concurrent views. And but no, that was a great tangent, Jay, because I think that e-ink is such a cool thing because of all the different things you can do with it. And we've hit some of the things I think already as we've gone through. But we did have this idea of color as a thing, and I think all of us were kind of impressed, at least I was, with Voya's video on the screen for the XC,
God.
for the Tab XC. That color vibrancy from a Kaleido panel was ridiculous. I mean, as someone who's not a fan of, color e-inked, and I'm well established as someone who's just, until it looks like Spectra 6 and functions like like Kaleido, I'm not interested as having it on my device. But that's as close as I've seen to something that I
Yeah.
could actually make a case and say I would like to use that if I needed color on the market.
Yeah, Voya's
What do
exact
you all
words
think?
were. Yeah, Voya's exact words were, "This kicks ass," which I really appreciated. And,
And he's not
it-
pulled his punches about Kaleido 3 in the past.
Exactly.
I think they've
Yeah,
improved
I'm on the same
it.
page as Ed.
Have you guys used the Kindle Colorsoft?
I have not.
No, it's really good, and it's really, and I think that screen and the Note F4C. Although Voya really didn't like the Note F4C, did he? But I found that was excellent in terms of its color vibrancy, and so I'm expecting. So it's this kind of, I don't know why they didn't call it Kaleido 3 Plus, because it is different somehow. I think it is it's the actual e-ink layer and the printed kind of color layer isn't changed, so they've called it Kaleido 3, but whatever the backing layer is that is doing
Yes.
a better job of reflecting these better tuned LEDs is giving you more color accuracy, and it is giving it whiter. And you don't get one thing, because I read on the little Kindle Colorsoft a lot because it's my daughter's Kindle, it's, of course my daughter's got the premium e-ink device because I'm an e-ink reviewer, but she reads pretty much mostly black and white books on there, and it's one of the few devices that I look at the screen on it and I think, and I don't notice the kind of the deniming effect. I don't notice the sub-pixels, if you like, in the white space. It doesn't put me off. Black text on it looks still really crisp, and it's one of the few ones, that and the Note F4C, that can, and I hope the Tab XC will be the same, that can work between being a black and white and then being a colour, and I think it's really good. And that Note F4C, I did a lot of side-by-side with the Remarkable Paper Pro, and I looked at the same comics, and I was actually like, yeah, okay, there are colours that do, the yellows look better on the Gallery 3, but pretty much every other colour looked better on the Kaleido the improved Kaleido 3. And so I think that, yeah, I don't know why E-Ink didn't call it a different name, because we'd have been talking about it like it was revolutionary, like it's like, but instead it's like, you know, and they'd have been able to say, we've got Kaleido 3 Plus, you know, that's the one you want now. Whereas, or maybe that's why, maybe they didn't want to, all the other companies that were still getting the previous Kaleido 3 panels that they had lying around, they didn't want to undercut them and do them a disservice. But yeah, it is better, the improved Kaleido 3, and it's, yeah, Ed, I definitely take your point, Ed, but I don't know whether we'll ever get Spectra color as quick as the other ones. It'll be interesting.
Yeah, I don't think so either. And one other thing I would say is it also gives up the writing feel to get that vibrancy. So I think there is a distinction there, like the Kindle Color Soft you can't write on.
But the
Tab XC you can't either.
The Note F4C is still the color vibrancy there. Is what's not there is the definition because of the texture on top.
Yeah.
So it's not just it's the colors look the same, but you just don't get quite the sharpness. But it's like
Rod
looking
did
at
a video. Yeah.
Rod made a video.
Rod did a video
Just now.
to your yes, exactly. No, to your point about the differences in Kaleido 3 on the Note Air 4C. There was a change on the backplane technology.
That's right. Yes, you did make a really good video.
Pulls things down. It was
yeah,
great.
I made a video the day after based on your video, so that was, you know. That's how it works, Rod. That's how it works.
Listen, I ain't got no problem with that.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I said
at
thanks
all.
for
I thought it was just a me and Rod thing where we have like dueling videos, like he'll
Yeah,
and I'll be like,
absolutely.
oh wait a minute, no.
That's a YouTuber thing, Ed. We all do
Absolutely,
it.
It is. Yeah.
Nothing new under the sun, eh?
Yeah.
Yep.
So what do you think about color, Rod? And then we'll jump on to our last piece here.
I think I agree with Kit. The color on the Note Air 4C and by extension the color soft is improved over previous Kaleido, and for the same reason Jay just said, that backplane being different. The IGZO I think is a new element elements they're using to create these backplanes. So quicker refresh rates, less power consumption, and also they have a new comfort gaze lighting system on those tablets that light the actual front panel a little differently than previous iterations of Kaleido. And that to me means the biggest thing to color vibrancy, because I did a test that showed that when you bump the brightness of those displays all the way up, the Note Air 3C would just blow the colors out. All of them would start to look washed out and whitish. But if you did the same thing to the Note Air 4C, the colors really just got more vibrant. They didn't wash out. So they're doing something different with the lighting as well. I'm not sure what. I didn't get that far in my research, but they're definitely doing something different with that. But I remember having this conversation with Jeff Moss on an E-Team conversation where we were talking about where's color going to go next. And I'll say what I said then that Jeff totally shot me down on, and it looks like I might have been right. Eat your heart out, Jeff. So I say Kaleido can always get better, because you can always make something that's small smaller. You can always make something that's transparent more transparent, right? So that's the march of technology. It's going to get smaller, better, faster, and I think that's where Kaleido's going to go. The segments that make up the color parts of the Kaleido panel are going to get so small, so they're going to be able to match the density of the pixels that are being used to create the pigment, and at that point, the resolution is going to be the same as the actual black and white resolution. So we're going to have 300 ppi color soon. You know, so, maybe not soon, relatively. I'm speaking, but we're going to get there with Kaleido, and I'm not sure if we're going to get there as fast with the gallery tech. Spectra has a long way to go, just because of how slow it is. But the color reproduction is there, so I think Kaleido gets us there the quickest. I'm going to go on a limb and say that. But I'm hopeful for color on the E-Ink devices. I think we're going to get to a point to where it's going to be indiscernible from what you're seeing on like print, like the best print. So
Yeah, you're right.
I think it might. It's not going to be gallery. It might be. There might be some kind of like next generation gallery that's actually not super recognizable from this one. Like,
yeah, I agree.
What I do think we may end up seeing is better response out of like colored electrophoresis. So where you've got like the same kind of like CMY, in their case now it's like CMYW basically, right, instead of K. But like if you do if you're able to get the individual colors to respond more quickly, if you can get them to do it without flashing them back and forth, the way they have to do now, then I think you're having a conversation about real sort of like additive technology, as opposed to the way we're doing it now, where we've got this like black and white and then a color filter on Kaleido. But it's going to take time, I think, for them to figure out how to get the TFTs to respond that fast.
And I think the big thing about the multicolor displays beyond Kaleido, the problem for me is solving the black problem. Like, can we get true black? Because if I'm not writing in true black, I don't really. That's one of my biggest problems about the Remarkable Paper Pro. So.
Yeah, it's not a great black and white reader, is it? Yeah.
No.
Well, and it's interesting because this, and our next thing, and we won't spend a lot of time on this piece because we've talked about it kind of throughout, but the idea of use case. What do you want this device to do? Do you want it to be a laptop that's just e-ink? If that's what you want, I don't know that we'll ever get there. I don't know that you'll ever move those pixels fast enough to make that happen. The processing power would have to be crazy. But if you want to do limited laptop type things on e-ink, I think we're already there. So, I mean, Kit's made a ton of videos, so's Rod, about, using productivity tools on an e-ink screen, and typing in Word works really well. Excel, OneNote, all of these pieces work together depending on what device you have. But I'm always curious about the use case argument and the need versus want argument. If I need it, that's different than if I expect it and I get this device and it doesn't do it, then I've set myself up for failure. I mean, it's why I took so long and watched so many videos before I picked my platform, so I wasn't disappointed when I pulled it out of the box.
Yeah. So that's our takeaway: is watch lots of YouTube videos about e-ink.
Oh yeah.
So our advice to you is subscribe to all our
Precisely.
channels. Watch
That's
them
right.
all.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hit like
I
on
agree
every
with-
single
I
one.
agree.
Comment. Yeah.
100%.
Yes.
Here,
Somehow we've come.
I'm going to throw some hundreds into the chat.
yeah. But I think you're right there, Ed, and it is because people can't try these things out in person, and they're still niche. But there's not a time that I haven't brought this into a meeting that someone's not had the conversation, and usually, if they have that conversation, a couple of weeks later they're like, oh yeah, I've gone down a rabbit hole, and I'm just deciding now between these two devices, what I want it to be, and everything like that. They go through this really thing, and usually they come up with and find something good. And what's nice at the minute I really like is when my wife will go to a conference and she'll see people will clock her and they'll be like, oh, you've got the Supernote crystal, you've got the Nomad, you're such a cool oh, look at that pen, and they come and they're like, oh, look at the pen.
I want to be around those people.
That's exactly, yeah. These people exist. These are our viewers, and it's incredible. These are our people. If you're that type of person that sees that, I tell I'm going to see this friend on next Thursday, and I can't wait. And it's just like, oh yeah, it is such a kind of like magic technology, isn't it? It's so amazing, this thing. When you just use it. When you use it with a good pen, and go back to rather than the USI, or rather than active capacitive as we're talking, it really is magic, It really is.
Are there any? All right, let's just put this out there because maybe you guys saw something I didn't see in your research and your travels. Are there any good active stylists out there? I mean, just one you saw and you was like, you know what?
No,
That's a good looking pen. I want that.
So
Oh, I know what you mean.
maybe.
Yeah. Okay,
I think MPP might be somewhat better than what we've seen from the USI-esque technology.
Really?
Oh
But I
yeah.
think,
But
but
isn't
I
that
think
Are you talking about the
MPP.
Microsoft protocol?
Yeah, Microsoft
Yes.
Protocol. Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
But I
Brad
think
Cobol's like
I
blasted those.
Yeah, he said it's the
Oh
worst.
really?
Yeah. He
Oh
said it's the
really?
worst.
Oh wow.
He
It's
is.
passable, but again, it's all that smoothing and software optimization
Interesting.
you have to have.
Okay. Well, I don't mind that as much as I do. Is some of the smoothing we get on the e-ink devices. I mean, I really don't mind. You know, with the exclusive the Supernote, I don't mind that on the Microsoft protocol, because I mean I use it on the Surface Pro and
Oh, you use it on
it works
Surface.
fine.
Yeah, but is it the same?
Apple Pencil is the other
Is
one.
it?
Apple Pencil's okay, but it's like I feel like you have to really press too hard on the Apple Pencil. I just feel
I like the functionality of it. I like
I'm sure you can
the
change
tools they give you.
sensitivity.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, it is.
Yeah,
And
it's
I just wish. I was so hopeful when I first got this out of the box. They said, "Would you like to pair a stylus?" I was like, "Oh, pairing! It's gonna pair. It means it's gonna do something more than just be a capacitor." But no, it just tells you the battery life. That's all it pairs for.
Yes,
You know,
correct.
the cleverness of the Apple Pencil with the Bluetooth polling backwards and forwards, and knowing that the position with these multiple accelerometers, and knowing when it's about to hit the page and everything like that, that is so clever to get that. Isn't it like 240 hertz or something, the poll rate of that pencil
It is.
or something like
Yes.
that?
I'm not sure, but it's nice.
And I think that was like the first one, and they that must have even got better than that. And it just, that they have managed to find, because I'm pretty sure they are just using on the screen. It's just the same touch input digitizer thing that they've got going on, but because the pen is communicating back and forth with the tablet so many times per second, they're getting that accuracy. And I think that's the way. If Boox and others were to give us that in a stylus, then I'd say, okay, that's probably going to be better than, or probably going to make more sense than a Wacom. Or maybe Wacom need to improve their ultra high level and bring whatever is up there now in their kind of Cintiq Pro line, bring that down into these other things. That would be incredible as well, because the one in this Huion is so great. It really is really good. And it's nothing wrong with our good old friend the Wacom EMR layer, but go up to 16,000 pressure levels and come back and we'll talk. And it's a good time.
Yeah,
Just
and
quick note.
Yeah.
We've gone back. Haven't we?
Quick note on the Go 7. The Remarkable Paper Pro pen is recognized on the Go 7.
Yeah,
because
vice
you can-
versa, but
you
it's
can-
not as accurate.
You
is it?
can't use it. Yeah.
It's like it messes up, it glitches. Yeah.
Right.
Speaking about use cases, which is what Ed was asking about. So like so this kind of like feeds into one of the things that I wanted to add, which I'll use my use case time for that, because it does feed in. So I've been trying to figure out the thing that I've found that is most useful for these is like, I'll take a ton of notes during meetings and stuff like that, and then I'll go back and I'll be like, all right, this was a to-do for later, right? I'm gonna lasso this and then have one of my Boox devices turn that into a to-do in Microsoft's to-do environment, which is actually hugely beneficial for me, because it lets me take my notes and then turn them to some kind of actionable data, right? So I keep thinking about what is the next sort of evolution of that ability. And so something that originally got me thinking was Notebook LM from Gemini, from Gemini, yeah, but from Google. So it actually can read handwriting. And in fact, it seems to do it just as well as the really good handwriting recognition that you get from Boox or from Supernote.
Better, really, because it will guess and it will work out in between words. If it's,
That's
it's
exactly right.
Much more context aware.
Yep.
Yes. And so it works really well, and but there are limitations insofar as like I want it to be able to tell me, okay, I found this term in this particular note, and now I'm going to show you which note that was. Now you can go back and you can look at context, right? That it can't quite do that. Instead, it sort of like gobbles up all of the information that it found in all of the notes, and then it's like, here's what I learned about what you've been doing for the past year.
Yeah, it's
right?
not a search engine. Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
And so like, and I don't know how it is on Supernote, but in Boox devices at least, every time you start a new handwriting search, it starts over. There's no index, which I
It
find
indexes it on
Not
Supernote.
Supernote indexes.
powerfully stupid.
Yeah.
See, okay,
And that's
way
that's
way
one of
better.
my gripes about the Boox UI. Nothing is indexed. You have to
Yes.
like
Build
figure out a way to index it yourself and make it work. Supernote's really good with that. Everything is indexable almost. I mean, it's folders are indexable. That's when I found that out from watching one of Ed's videos. I'm like, that's crazy.
Right.
Well,
and so like.
No, go ahead, Jay.
Sorry, Ed, you were going to say? Okay, so
Well,
I was just going to finish out by saying.
Oh, yeah, finish your thought.
Yeah, sorry, this thing is like too laggy.
You're good.
I was gonna finish out by saying, what I'm trying to figure out now is do I need to write my own software basically to accept the PDF dumps of data that you can get Onyx to do, you can get Boox to do, out to some folder somewhere that will then periodically ingest the PDFs, do handwriting recognition somehow. That is a non-trivial step, by the way. And then build an index out of that and build a body of text out of that can then be searched, then be referenced back to, the notes that I originally took. That would be huge, at least for me.
See, that sounds like an but you know what's funny? That sounds like an agent, right? That sounds like a AI agent task that could be easily scripted. But more importantly, I think ink devices should start or ink manufacturers who make tablets for note taking should start thinking along those lines, because I mean, if you're not thinking about what people are going to actually do with the notes they're taking, unless they think people are just taking notes for fun, like a lot of us are taking notes for serious business, like especially from what you're saying.
Thinks.
Right. So a lot of us are taking notes on serious business. So they gotta know that we want to take action on the data that we're putting into this, right? And if you know that we want to take action on the data, the best way to take action on data right now is AI tools to build something into one of their devices that could say, okay, along with your exporting of your handwritten file, as soon as you export it, we're gonna make sure that you have a text file as well. We're gonna make sure that you have a text file that's optimized for how it's written. Maybe look at it and see how it's organized. I've been thinking about that too as well, Jay. That to me sounds like a logical next step for these kind of devices, as a next level AI export tool.
So
that's what I thought the AI paper would try and do straight away, but it just fell way short of it. Sorry,
Flywoods, where are you at?
No, you're good,
bumping
kid,
into
because
it.
I'm counting on you, because I have not gone on a Supernote rant yet, and and last time
I'm ready.
Last time Kid put in the incoming hot take for Rod, so I'm so 80% of what you just described, Jay, with the plugin into Obsidian happens. So
Oh yeah.
the Supernote
Oh, I know.
plugin is ridiculously cool if you use
I know.
Obsidian. And I think
I'm jealous.
that because what it does is, as long as you use a real-time recognition note, and then you pull that file in, it gives you the full file. You can see your handwriting, you can see the conversion, and then you can choose to generate a markdown file from that one file. So you can just leave it as is if you want. If you just want it for reference, you just leave it as is. Or you can generate a markdown file, a PDF, or images from that, and then you can edit and link.
That's
So,
nice.
Yes. So
not to
Ed, I'm going to
mention-
only interrupt. I'm going to only interrupt to say that I'm going to give another reason why Supernote is better than Boox. So, with respect to that Obsidian plugin, one of the things I've also been thinking about a lot is sort of like, what do we do with our data? Where does it go? How does it get? Yes. Where does it?
Wait, y'all in chat? I'm not.
Who does it get? Oh yeah. I'm over on my phone, but and there's a lot of people who are concerned about, what's going to happen to my data? Where does it get synced up to? Like, I don't know anything about that company, blah, blah, blah. Okay. So one of the things that you can do with Obsidian is you can take, you can sync your Obsidian notes to a whole bunch of different kinds of targets. You can literally run basically your own Obsidian sync server using CouchDB and some pretty simple open source software. So you can sync it onto your computer on your home internet connection. And it's all because of that Obsidian enabled data core. And like, you don't even have to use Supernote's, RADA's sync system after that. That is huge. That's enormous. That is an amazing advantage that the Obsidian plugin gives Supernote users, and there's nothing even remotely similar on Boox, which is like incredibly frustrating.
And I'll add to that. No, well, and I'm the same way. So the cool thing about this is that my Obsidian Vault lives in OneDrive, but I store it locally. So, and I use their sync service. So I just pull over anything from Supernote there. It's completely private. It's behind the paywall. It's, and it just works on any device I have. And it's really cool. Like I said, I mean, Aaron put in the chat early on that this was going to be a Boox Bash Fest, and it's not for me, because if you want to use Obsidian on a device, don't do the Supernote. Just don't. It's not going to look good. It's not going to be as user-friendly. You can sideload it, but it's just not the best use. But if you wanted to integrate with like the file structure in Obsidian, shameless plug for my shout out to the Rat chat group.
Rant's about tech.
Oh, Rant's about tech. Yes.
Yeah, I know. I saw him do that. But seriously, and shameless plug for my organization class, but we're going to dig into that stuff. How do you replicate the experience while using a Supernote to use Obsidian and make those work together? Because then you can do so many more things with that once it's out of the Supernote platform that Supernote's just no e-ink device is good at. And that's the thing. It's intentionality. It's like, okay, Supernote, Boox, all of them are really good at what they do, but there are other platforms and other devices that are better at doing certain things. And so
Absolutely.
Thinking of when you need to switch between those modes to be effective, I mean, that's what's really cool about it. So, but yeah, not too much of a Supernote rant, I mean, but what you described, Notebook LM still thinks that Rod loves devices he doesn't love, and it thinks I'm a Ukrainian translator. So it's got some hallucination issues.
We gotta pull the reins in on this Notebook LM. We can't have it misrepresenting me. Okay.
No.
Any thoughts on that, Kit? Because that's.
I mean, the only thing I'd think is there are lots of people who don't want that. They don't want stuff to be pulled into AI. They don't unless they could do it themselves locally.
Right.
I think there's a real space for that, and I think there's very few AI tools that I haven't started to use and found that this hasn't lived up anywhere near to the promise that it could. And okay, the kind of common response to that is well, this is the worst it'll ever be. Yeah, and I get that, and it's like, well, okay, right now it's going to get better and better and better, of course, but the kind of ideas of the way that this kind of second brain can be built around your pen notes, and then you can just poll it and ask it questions of what was I thinking about this thing. Is it always going to be misunderstanding some quite crucial twists? So for instance, on handwriting, I still think this was one of the real light bulb moments of wow, what AI can do. AI in a meeting of mine took a A4 page of really rough notes that the chairman had written, and he was going to have to type those up. He knew what he meant and all of it, right? And I took a photo of it and put it through Chat GPT 4.0, and it came back, and I said, just turn that into typed text for me, please. And it got the gist of everything, except it got the inverse of two important points. So for me, going through that was very, very useful, because all I had to do was remove the word not, or just change the meaning just to the opposite meaning, which is a few words, change that. So it was very, very easy for me to do that. However, if the AI has ingested all your pen notes, and without you really knowing where it's done that, it's got the inverse of several important points. Like you say, it just mistakes what you think about a certain thing, Rod, or that your language is totally different to what it is, or whichever, Ed. But if we aren't aware of the thinking it's doing, and actually it's getting some pretty fundamental twists on our take, then there's that danger there, isn't there? I mean, every time I use AI, and I use AI a lot now, I'm always just so aware that I'm using it to improve the quality of my output, but I am still the driving kind of thinker behind every kind of step. And I think that realization that it's like working with a very a very like enthusiastic like junior partner, like trainee almost, who will plug away for you and will do, but they're always going to come back, and you're going to have to proofread their work, and you're going to have to think, but there's just kind of a big misunderstanding there. Let's twist
I like that
analogy.
analogy.
Yeah, and just treat it like that. Whereas if we start to rely on it, but I also think and it makes those mistakes, then it could be an issue. But I also think the more you get used to writing for AI, the more you get used to the idea that you're writing notes that AI is going to go through, you're going to be very good at predicting when those. Christine, brilliant, mate. Absolutely brilliant, Christine. As soon as, in just the same way, as the interns, that you get used to. They always, every single time I tell them to do that, they get the wrong end of the stick, and you just know that 5 minutes with that person, making sure they're really clear on the outcome you want from them, means that's going to save you 2 hours of headache later. In that same way, the more you use it and the more you shape those notes, and when you write something really important, that you're going to underline the word "not" or something like that, or make sure it's just really a clear bit that it can't possibly misread that intention, and then just to look out for that it's got that intention right afterwards. I think the more we use it, the more that will happen, and I think I think the future is bright for that. And I think that the first true like e-ink notepad that can do that and do that well, and say and sell that, and it actually be like reviewers get it and say, this is actually what it promised to be. I think actually it will
Oh yeah.
but it isn't easy. Of course, it's not easy. I mean, like look at what Apple have done, launching Apple AI.
Holy cow!
And,
we don't have time to get into that.
Right. We can't unpack that.
This huge company.
That's like 2 more shows.
Can't get that right. And it kind of had the idea it was going to be like totally know everything about your life, and you were going to be able to poll it, and then it's like no, it's what every other thing has got. It's ChatGPT integration in your notes. That's all we've got so far, and it is just ChatGPT. It's not even like our own AI. It's just the ChatGPT. It's not as easy as we think it is. Basically, that's my point.
Yeah, and I want to pull on that thread because I put something in our document, and this came up on Friday for me because we've got this campus-wide conversation about AI, and we're even going into an institute that's nationwide. And I was on the phone with that organization, someone I've known for a long time, and we have a nursing school at Valpo. And so we were talking about that, and he said one of the use cases and one of the things they were concerned about that was happening was the use of AI transcription for charting. Now, this isn't for a privacy issue. It's a closed system. It's just something like Note or something that transcribes for you. But they were finding that a nurse or a doctor doing the interview with the patient wasn't paying as close of attention to the patient. So because they know that it's being transcribed in the background, they know that AI is taking notes for them.
That's really
and so the idea being, are they missing a facial cue, a body language cue, something, you ask them if it hurts and they grimace, but they don't say anything. So to me, I think that kind of gets to your point, Kit, and to mine from the other thing of it having hallucinations, but even more so when you take the AI or the human element out of something that's highly personal and highly interactive, what does that do for us? So so there's note taking, but then there's note taking for understanding, and there's note taking for communication. And so that's, I just wanted to throw that out there because I think it dovetails into this whole thing when we think, well, AI is going to do all of this stuff for us.
No, and
I don't
that's
know
the
that it's
kind of
going to be able
that's
to
that.
do that.
Yeah, that natural propensity. When you first got that tool, you realize, wow, like this could literally, for me, it's like write my lesson plans for the next week in 10 minutes. But then you look at those, and the quality of those is like C minus lesson plans, and I can't actually teach off these things. However, if I'm good and skillful, it can add depth, and it can quickly go out and do bits of research for me, just like you would with an intern. And I just think like the kind of like first thought of everyone around AI is like, oh, that just sounds like you're being lazy and the quality is going to be rubbish. But if you put your thinking into orchestrating this thing, and you remove some of the manual kind of lift, and you realize that I can enrich with it, I can repurpose with it. I use Notebook at LM all the time to like I'm revisiting a product. So what I'll do is I'll stick in my old videos from it, from that product, and I'll just say spit out the top 5 pros and cons. And occasionally I'll get one wrong, but I'll know because it's me, it's my videos I've put in. But it very quickly has built me a list of top 5 things that I said that were great about it, things that and so I'm immediately kind of back up to speed of where I am, and that then allows me to build a higher quality video on top of that.
I think that's a good point to make, and I think that it's all about, when I use AI, it's more about getting a perspective that I didn't have before, or getting insight that I didn't have before. Like just recently, I was just inputting a lot of data into an Excel spreadsheet, and I had AI I selected it all and said, hey, like, what can you tell me about this data? And it spit out like a bunch of things that I had already thought of, right? And that I already made lists for, but it spit out 2 or 3 things that I hadn't even considered, insights into that data that now I can put into my video that would have never made it into the video before. I mean, really meaningful things. Yeah. So I think it's you're right. There you go. There you go. It's all about having that insight, and you have to be smart enough to know that you have to go over what it's doing, because like Kit just said, the quality that AI spits out for you as a finished product is nothing compared to what you can do yourself. And that also hints on to another. I was listening to a podcast recently, NPR podcast, and they were talking about this one gentleman used AI. Actually, no, it wasn't NPR podcast. It was Engadget. Is it in The Verge? My bad. The Verge. It was a The Verge podcast, and the guy from The Verge was writing a story about Notebook LM and how he would put in his job review that he got into Notebook LM to have it parse it for him and to give him for it to give him the feedback instead of him getting the feedback another way. And basically, the things he found out was he was trying to get it to make a podcast based off of his work performance review, and then he thought, oh, this does a really good job. It lets me ask questions of it and lets me do this and that. It gives me some insight on this and that thing. But then he tried to go and have it make a whole podcast for him, just based off a topic he gave it, and just said, gather information, make me a podcast on this. And what he found out was that he did it about 7 times. He said what he found out was giving Notebook LM the information, or any AI tool the information, was just half of the job. It would start a really good podcast, but it would have no depth, no real meaning, no real middle or end. It would just be a really good beginning to a podcast. And I thought that was a telling sign too, meaning that it's a tool. Use it like any other tool. It's a good way to get started on something, to get some insight into something. But ultimately, AI is only as good as you are, in a sense.
And lazy people will make bad work no matter what tool they're using. So I'm not a lazy person. I like devoting the proper amount of time to producing quality. And if you can make my quality higher, then sometimes it'll even take me longer, but it'll take me places I didn't know it was going to go. And I think that could be the case sometimes. Sorry.
Yeah, and this is where I put on my educator hat, and Kid, you probably think about this a lot too. And we all think about this, but this idea of information literacy, of understanding what things do, and it's why you'll I'll, my dying breath will be save the libraries, because librarians are doing God's work. I mean, I really believe that. Librarians are at the forefront on AI. They were on the forefront of Google when it became a search engine. I mean, they're there, because until we get students to understand that human element, the reason we can sit here and talk about checking AI is because we are knowledgeable about the subjects that we're putting in, or that we're researching, or that we're talking about.
We knew the old school way
Rod,
of doing it.
Well, that's the thing.
Right.
You
legwork.
understand, Rod, if it's giving you bad information. And,
Yeah.
Jay, with the stuff you do the same way. And so those are the conversations that we're having, is how do we get structure around it so that it isn't the default to say, oh, ChatGPT will do it. Or, oh, AI, I don't want to just throw out down ChatGPT. AI will do it in general, all of these bots. Yeah, go ahead, Jay.
Yeah, I was gonna say there are like serious like user experience problems for these things too. One of the issues with Notebook LM that I ran into is that it was really bad at just like accepting basic stuff, like accepting large numbers of files at once. It would just like stall and die trying to import them all. And in a related kind of situation, so I was talking to the one of our directors of clinical services at the hospital, and she was explaining how there is a tool from our medical record management system that basically can take information from multiple sources and get clinical notes done for you, which she described as being incredibly useful. So she was like, it'll screen for 60 common inpatient diagnoses. We use a single instance, and so it's applied across all of our encounters. So it can use context like globally, which is really useful. But the problem is that utilization is just really low among all of the clinicians, in the organization. She described it as it's practically magic. It uses discrete data, text data, and it's right in the middle of her workflow, as long as she's doing her own documentation, which she usually is. But there's no organizational requirement to utilize it, and people just see it as extra work because they don't know that if they do this stuff up front and they put, the files into where they're supposed to be into this, system, they're going to save themselves hours and hours of labor.
It's infrastructure.
Yes, and the way she put it was, "What's the point in building rockets if we have no willing astronauts?" And I was like, I need to sit down and think about that for a minute. Oh boy, because yeah, that's a big problem. Is that people don't know to go to something because it's not presented to them in a way that is enticing and immediately useful.
Yeah,
it's an infrastructure thing. It takes people a while.
Yeah, and I think you need to know what it does well and what it does wrong. That's where the literacy piece, because a lot of people think, oh, well, you're telling me what this is bad at. No, it's exactly the opposite. We're telling you what it's capable of. And as long as you understand what it's capable of and what it can do and what it can do effectively and what it's not good for, you can make informed decisions. And I think that's, where AI is kind of in that weird spot. Either people love it or hate it. There's not very many people, I shouldn't say not very many. There are probably a good middle group of people who are using it effectively and wanting to do the right things with it. But there's also a lot of loud voices on either extreme. Either it's the worst thing ever or the best, or it's magic, like you said, Jay. It's just magic. It's just doing this thing out there and I don't understand it. I think we need to help people find that middle ground. But
yeah.
One more thing on this real quick before we move on from it. She put in the chat, people aren't irrelevant yet. And that's a really good point that I want to speak to, something that I meant to mention up front. I think what's going to happen is, it's nothing that we haven't all been saying, right? And just like Kit said, it's just going to make good people, or if you're good at what you do, it's just going to make your work better. If you're bad at what you do, it's not going to, it's not going to make it any worse or make it any better, So I think that what's going to happen with this AI thing is that people who do things are going to be more valuable, right? It's the people who can do the things that AI can't do. They're going to be more valuable. So I guess the point is human work is going to become more valuable in the future in my mind, because a lot of the mundane stuff AI is going to be able to do and do so well. But the higher level things that we're probably going to only be able to do for at least the foreseeable future, I think we're just going to be that much more valuable for those skill sets.
No, I agree. I'm getting something in the chat about sound levels, but I'm not seeing it, so I don't know everybody's
am I?
in the right level. No, I've got
Listen, I can be loud,
it
so.
controlled. No, I've got you controlled. I've learned.
Listen, the first thing I did was hit the game down on you real low, okay?
But all right. So I am very well aware that it's approaching 10 o'clock in the evening where Kit is. So,
It is.
Oh
yeah.
man, Kid, thank you
Wow.
for being here. Kid's
This
making a
soldier.
sacrifice. Thank you, Kid.
yeah. So and you know we're not all in different time zones. I think me and you, Jay, are in the same time zone. But other than that,
I'm
are
Central.
you not? Are you in Mountain? No, I'm Central.
I'm central. Oh, you are
Yeah,
central.
so-
Okay, then yeah.
So okay, but everybody else is in a different time zone. So I just wanted to go around to close it out. Tell everybody kind of where they can find you. Any closing thoughts really quickly on what I think we've had a great conversation. I mean, I've enjoyed
Yeah, I
it
really enjoyed it.
tremendously. And I hope everybody in the chat that's been with us, we've maintained a really consistent audience. So that's really cool.
Awesomeness.
But let's go in reverse order this time. And Jay, if you want to start, then Rod, then Kit. So Rod, you get to go second twice. So
There you go.
I'm consistent, if nothing else.
Yes. Yeah. So no, I think this was really a great discussion. I think we both had fun and got to exchange a lot of really interesting stuff. I think my main things from this this discussion are, I really hope that I really hope that we don't end up seeing this industry losing sight of how important quality is to these products. And I mean what we're seeing with like USI and quasi USI, stylus input now, but just in general also, the development of it, the development of everybody's software and kind of how everything has been shaping up, over the last few years. Like, it's important that this stuff works well, and it's important that you're selective and intentional about what stuff you build and how you sell it to folks. There are some companies, which shall remain nameless, that don't do any of this stuff well, but they just basically try to bargain shoot the market. And I think that's a real shame, because it leads to people getting a little bit confused and sometimes misled, which I think is this sucks. That's one thing. And then the other thing is just, I do think we're in a really good place for the near future, in terms of what we can do with this technology and where it's taking us, in terms of, like we talked about, basically how do we take our personal knowledge and then turn it into data that we can act on, right? We talked a lot about that.
Yeah.
And I think we're in a really good place for that, and it's getting better, and I think that's awesome. So, oh, and in terms of where you can find me, I have a very fledgling channel on YouTube called Jay, Not a Professional, and
I love that
so
name.
there's that. You can find me at you can find me at checkwithscience.com on Blue Sky, yeah, I will see all of you there.
Well, Rod, Rants About Tech, and you can find me on YouTube or all the socials at Rants About Tech. I'm trying to put up more content on the website, rantsabouttech.com. I'm writing up stuff. I'm trying to at least put up one article for every video that I put a lot of time into writing. So that's happening. And as far as e-ink, I think e-ink is in a good place, like Jay said. I think we're like in a place to where it could go a lot of different ways. I'm still in agreement with Jeff Moss on his take as far as the splintering of the e-ink market, and I think that's just going to keep happening. I think that's good as well. So I mean, the more it branches off into new kind of devices, the more people they kind of bring into the core audience of e-ink, which I think is good. People's interest in e-ink seem to be growing as well. I'm excited about e-ink as an industry, so I'm super excited about it. I think there's a long way to go, but I think that we have the companies in place that are put enough time in and are putting effort into getting us there. We spoke about the updates to the Viwoods AI paper and how they're rapidly iterating on their device. Supernote's been killing it with their updates. So, you know, we got companies that are putting a lot of like serious work into making these devices better and more universal for us to use. So I'm super psyched.
Yeah, so my name's Kit. Kit Best Masters on YouTube is where to find me. I'll just say Mashup Mike will be very pleased to see me wearing a set of headphones for this one. I haven't been able to run my hand through my hair for you tonight, mate. But
Oh, that's hilarious.
we're back to normal service.
I didn't even mention Kit's hair once today. You guys should be happy.
I know.
And my battery on my camera is about to die, but it's been great and I really enjoyed talking to you. And one thing I want to talk about just briefly, I think you can still hear me. Thumbs up, you still hear
Yep.
me.
Yep, we got you.
Yes.
The
Yeah, you're good,
primacy of conversation is an important idea in digital minimalism, and I think having conversation, that's what YouTube is so good, and it's so good to see the same names and people like Jay, and I think She-Ink, you've started making some videos as well, and just to put it out there and be part of the conversation as well. Let's just do as much of this as we can and just enjoy having these types of conversations. Yeah, thank you, Mal.
Yeah, and thank you for that. And to be fair, that was one of the early conversations. Rod was going to mention it, and I deliberately steered away from it. No, I'm just kidding. We are in awe. I mean, you can see, I'm way gray-headed, and we're all, I think, kind of.
We're in awe of the hair.
I think so, and I know that sometimes people have been critical, and I don't get it. I mean, I don't know. I've watched.
They're haters. That's what it is. They hate. They don't have hair like Kit.
Kit gets
Where
weird.
Where have people been
critical?
Yeah. Oh, there we go, Kit. Yeah. Can we see?
He's back. There we go.
Just run the hands through. Run the fingers through one time, Kit, before you.
I can do that.
There we go.
Yeah, there it is.
Listen, it's not a Kit party unless he done ran his hands through his hair. That's what's up. Thank you, Kit. And
right.
Kit's such a good
That's
sport too. Awesome.
Yeah, and I mean seriously, it's. You mentioned it during the video, Kid, actually, because this will show you how much of your content. I watch all of your guys' content. I mean, I really do. I find moments, and I watch, all of these things. And you mentioned, I don't understand why somebody would, comment on my hair. I didn't think that was that important.
And literally, I leave them in, if I'm doing a take, there'll be a pause that you cut out, these little pauses where you think, and I'll notice I've run my hand through my hair, and I'll put in the, split second moment, just for the, just for the banter, just leave that little bit in.
Well, it's good to know it's intentional.
Just for Mashup Mike, yes.
There we go.
That's right. Yes.
And that leads me to something. If you all don't know, Kit does have a second channel, and I'll try and drop it down in the details.
Yes, Kit Masters. Yeah, and it's funny. The one that I haven't posted a video on that for a little while, and the video that I've got queued up is like almost ready to be released, and it was like talking about why I took a pause on that, because I had this eye injury, and it was like I've started this thing, and all of a sudden I started this thing when I felt like I had more time, and then all of a sudden I felt like I didn't have any time, and it was like something I had to give, so but I will put some more out on that for sure. Yeah.
But it's worth checking out, and the reason I mentioned it, Kit, was that's where you dropped that little tidbit about leaving a pause. It was in one of those videos, I believe, and it helped me out. I mean, of course, DaVinci Resolve now has where it does really well at eliminating breaths and stuff, which is always my problem, because I take a deep breath and you hear it. And DaVinci's almost eliminated that, but anyway, I don't want to derail us. I'm so glad you brought up the hair. I thought that was great.
That was great. That was great.
For all of you who already know me, I'm Ed Finn. Thank you all so much for being here. As far as I'm excited too. I agree with everyone here. I think e-ink's in a good space. And e-paper is one of those terms I both love and hate. I love it because it doesn't make you think about the term e-ink, which is synonymous with a company and a brand. But a lot of people call things e-paper that aren't e-ink. They're not
Yes.
electrophoretic.
Right.
And so I love to hate that dynamic. And
Black
it's
and
hard
white
to say
LCD
that.
is not e-ink.
It's not
No.
and
Can't
but I think that what you've seen here with this discussion is there's a lot of hope around use cases. And a lot of people think, oh, well, you love the Supernote and you hate Boox. I don't hate Boox. I think Boox is highly innovative. I think all of these devices should exist. I mean, some people may think some of them are superfluous. I don't. I think if you have a use case for it and you can find it on the market and you purchase it, then it's a good device for somebody. And I think each of these platforms are trying to do something unique. And that's why, I love this space, because it might not be my device, but it might be somebody's. And, for as far as where to find, go ahead, Jay, real quick. Did
I was
you
going
have
to say,
something
just because somebody in chat brought this up. This is just a last minute note. Kit, have you had a chance to play at all with a MobiScribe Wave?
No, I've never had one of those. I've considered I don't know whether I'd have to import it or buy it, but
I think
I would love to know
Yeah.
your thoughts on that thing.
Yeah.
yeah, they
I would
they
love to
didn't
know your thoughts on that.
they even early on they
incredible
said
value.
yeah, we'll send you one, and we got as far as me sending my details and stuff like that, and I think they just I don't know what happened, it just never arrived.
Oh, what? Okay, now it's time to boycott.
I don't know whether though, sometimes another Fujitsu as well, or we had a conversation and they said yeah, it sounds great, and then they realised I was in the UK and we're just not in the UK market, and but then I was like, well, my audience is in the States as well, so
Right.
it shouldn't really make that much of a difference. But anyway, for whatever reason, and I just you have to make that decision, don't you? What you're going to spend, and and what you're going to be able to review. What this it's got to make financial sense as well. But I do think that because it's Wacom, and so the recipe of e-ink and Wacom, that's been the big success. And I think that just to round off our discussion, really, why would you go away from that remarkable? And now Boox, and it's surprised as well. That recipe, when I bought the original Remarkable one, it was because I know Wacom's flipping great, and I love reading on e-ink, and bring those two together, and I finally feel like I'll have something that can be my everything notebook and e-reader, and now it's typing on it as well, and it just became now it's my phone as well, and it's great, all of these things. But the core recipe of Wacom and e-ink is just so good, and that's there on the MobiScribe for some ridiculously low
$100.
price.
99 bucks.
Yeah, $99.
And it's
right.
and it's by the way, it's Mobius. It's
It's
Mobius.
Yeah.
I think it's 300 DPI, and it. I mean, it is just an amazing deal, and
The
it's
value,
remarkably capable for. Oh my God, it's for the amount of money, it's so capable. So Ed has had some stuff to say about it before.
Yeah. I don't think it's 300 PPI. I think it's close, Jay. But either way, for that price point, but also there's uncertainty with the company and
Exactly.
But at that price point, for somebody who's just looking for a really capable little e-ink tablet reader, it's
Especially an introductory device, it's perfect.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah, it does a great job.
forget it. Yeah, it's perfect. No brainer.
But anyway, so I just, thank you all for being on with me. Just so everyone in the audience knows, this will be available on Spotify and most places you get a podcast afterwards. You'll be able to watch it on video on Spotify. You'll also be able to hear it audio. You can also catch the replay on YouTube. So shout out to Aaron at 2530 Media for helping me figure that out. But, I look up to all of you guys, whether it's through conversations on Discord, whether it's through the content on your channels. Just echoing what Kid said earlier today, subscribe to these guys. They're phenomenal. They do great work. Support your local YouTuber and even your international YouTuber. Support us, and because what we do is try to bring value. And, hopefully you got that from this conversation. I know I did. And, but thank you all so much for being here. Thanks for everybody in the chat. For those of you who donated for the first time through Super Chats, fabulous. And we look forward to having more of these conversations.
Absolutely.
Awesomeness.
Cheers, Ed.
Good seeing you guys.
together.
Thanks for all
Thanks, guys.
listening. Thank
Yeah.
you.
And thanks to everyone for joining.
You guys.